A surprising turn in the U.S.-Philippines trade talks. American President Donald Trump has raised tariffs on 8 countries, including the Philippines. This despite continued negotiations between the two countries. So, what happened? And now the more important question is, what's next? Here's the report.
The United States has imposed a 20% tariff on the Philippines, a move that comes even as trade talks remain underway. To put that in perspective, the 20% levy is 3 points higher than the 17% rate imposed on Liberation Day last April 2. And the Philippines is not alone. Japan, Malaysia, Brunei, and Brazil are among the countries also hit with increased import taxes. In a 2-page letter addressed to President Bongbong Marcos, which is identical to letters sent to other countries, Trump justified the duties, citing long-standing trade deficits. In 2024 alone, the U.S. trade deficit with the Philippines rose to nearly $5 billion, a 22% increase from the previous year. Unless a new deal is struck within 3 weeks, the 20% tariff takes effect on August 1st, and that's on top of other sectoral tariffs the U.S. will impose. Here at home, the Department of Trade and Industry confirms it has received the notice on the tariff hike. In a statement, Trade Secretary Cristina Roque expressed concern over the decision despite continuous engagements. Roque emphasized the 20% rate is the second lowest among other countries, but warned that unilateral trade actions could destabilize global supply chains. A Philippine delegation is scheduled to hold discussions in the U.S. next week, just days before the new rate takes effect. Since May, government officials have been negotiating with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. Leading the pack are Special Assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs Frederick Go and Trade Secretary Cristina Roque, who initially sought to negotiate the rate down to zero.
We are concerned that the U.S. has decided to impose a 20% tariff on Philippine exports. The fact remains, however, that the 20% rate is the second lowest among all reciprocal tariffs that the U.S. has imposed on the region, the lowest being the 10% of Singapore. Myself, together with DTI Secretary Chris Roque and Undersecretary Perry Rodolfo and Undersecretary Alan Hepty, will be flying to the United States next week. This is actually a scheduled trip to the United States even before today's announcement. No? So there will be meetings next week amongst the trade representatives ng Amerika po at ng Pilipinas.
On Monday, Trump announced similar letters were sent to 14 nations in total, among them Japan and Malaysia, which received even higher tariffs compared to that issued in April. Trump once again defended his decision to charge steeper tariffs.
The formula was a formula based on common sense, based on deficits, based on how we've been treated over the years, and based on raw numbers. And we really haven't had too many complaints because I'm keeping them at a very low number, very conservative, as you would say, number. And we haven't had, I'm sure they will be complaining at certain points, but we haven't had complaints. We've been treated very unfairly by both friend and foe.